and welcome to Fit After 40 Women's Fitness and Health Revolution podcast. Kinsey here, as always, and today I'm plumb tickled because we are talking about what to look for when you're hiring a personal trainer, what certifications to look for, what questions to ask, and we'll be finishing with just a loving reminder that you are the person hiring them to help you. So if it isn't a good fit, that's okay. You don't have to feel obligated to stay with them. This question is based on, this episode rather, is based on a question that I got during our last round of the menopause and muscle webinar, and I love it. A personal trainer, I recognize as one and as someone who's paid for fitness, it is an investment. And for a lot of us, it feels like and may be actually a very big investment. But guess what? In my humble opinion, I've talked about it a lot on this show. I'll talk about it more today. It is a very necessary investment. Remember, moving, putting muscle on our frame, keeping it there is how we age vitally. And in order to do that correctly, we have to have someone teach us. You've heard me say it here roughly a million times, and you'll hear it even more in the future. But fitness is a skill we need to learn. Would you pick up a violin and expect yourself to play it expertly, or even be able to bang out a semi-recognizable Mary Had a Little Lamb? Not me, dog. And guess what? Playing the violin and exercise, they're the same thing. I mean, not like one-to-one, but in terms of how we become proficient and have any idea of what we're even doing, they're the same thing. It's called neuromuscular control. And we've talked about that here as well before, but that is your brain learning and hardwiring neural pathways to your muscles that over time make you more and more proficient at a skill. Just like a concert violinist doesn't break a sweat over banging out a sob-worthy rendition of that banger Mary Had a Little Lamb, the goal of working with a trainer is to make movement patterns like squats, hinges, lunges, presses, pulls so proficient that they basically become second nature. But that takes time. It takes time to learn. It takes time to train the body in what we learn. But a huge chunk of what you're doing when you're working with a personal trainer is also helping your body to unlearn insidious and incorrect movement patterns that have popped up from a lifetime of daily living. Movement patterns that have left some of your muscles shorter, some of your muscles longer, all of which, when we have those imbalances, lead to improper movement and alignment. And they not only keep us from getting the most bang for our buck when we are working out, and who's got the time for that? Because remember, when your muscles are already in shortened and lengthened positions that are out of that equilibrium, you're more likely working the wrong muscles, or we're not able to work and target them as efficiently. But we're also setting ourselves up for injury. And that is the last thing that I want for you, especially if you're getting started, because I'd hate for you to walk away from fitness saying, I tried and it wasn't for me. I just get hurt. You can do this safely. We talked about that in one of our more recent episodes, the 5 myths of strength training for women. It is safe to do when done correctly. Okay. And I'm going to say it again here, that I have a firm belief that everybody, myself included, benefits from working with a trainer for at least 3 months getting started. That seems to be the amount of time across the board that it takes most of my clients to unlearn and correct movement imbalances. Of course, it's a lifelong thing, right? If we've spent 48 years holding our body in one way, it's probably going to take a little longer than 3 months to fully adjust, but at least they're more aware of it, so they make those adjustments on their own. Plus, throughout life, we start to pick up other movement imbalances. Maybe we shifted to a job where we're sitting more, or we have a little one who we carry with one arm more than the other. There's lots of things in life that create these movement imbalances. The point is, in about 3 months, we have the awareness that allows us to position our body in the correct alignment to move properly. So we're learning how to reset our body, essentially. We also, at the end of 3 months' time, generally start to have control over our bodies in spaces, so we know that we're moving safely. Then I don't mean to toot my own horn. I just love my clients. They end up sticking around because now that they're moving skillfully, we get to add weight and or usually expand their movement vocabulary. And they want guidance for that so they don't have to worry about, again, doing things incorrectly or even worse, getting injured. So pretty darn cool what we are capable of learning. But the point is, if they wanted to roll out after 3 months of working together and keep doing basic but effective strength training program on their own without worry of injury, they'd be able to. And that's pretty darn cool. It's honestly the whole reason that I created Fit After 40 small group personal training, which started this week, by the way, and it is going so well. I am just so tickled by all the women that I'm getting to work with. All different walks of life, all different ages, all different fitness backgrounds, and all of them are just like the coolest human. I honestly don't know. I don't know how I got so lucky, but it's the reason that I created Fit After 40 small group personal training, because I know that the cost of personal training can be a barrier to entry for a lot of us, especially at first before we understand the value. And the model of small group personal training allows for members to invest in themselves and their movement and their health span at less than half the cost of working with a personal trainer, while still getting hands-on adjustments and form corrections that you would get in a one-on-one session. These sessions are now capped at 5 people. I made that decision this week. At least starting out, we're going to cap it at 5, not 6, because I really want to make sure that people are getting the most hands-on experience that they can. Again, I want this to feel like a one-on-one session, but with friends. You get your own unique workout. And last thing I'll say about Fit After 40, if you are in the Twin Cities, I still have space in 2 out of our 3 in-person cohorts. And if you're not in the cities, I still have a couple spots in the online. So feel free, shoot me an email at kinsey@fitafter40.info, and 40 is the number 40, or hit me up on Instagram, kinsey.does.the.fitness, and let's go ahead and set up a complimentary consult call. Let's see if we're a good fit for the program. And at the very least, you'll get to walk away with some action steps. So please, please, please reach out. You know I love to talk about this stuff. Okay, so let's say you're like, no, Kinsey, I do not want to do Fit After 40. And I hope that's your voice. It's pretty cool. For whatever reason. Doesn't matter to me. I promise it doesn't hurt my feelings a lot. I'm just kidding. It doesn't hurt my feelings. For real. You understand that you need to work with a trainer in order to build a foundation, and you're looking for one. But you're wondering, what should I be looking for? And that, darling listener, brings us to the topic of today. So big old shout out to Kelly for this question. I think it is a great question. I absolutely love it, because how the heck are you supposed to know, if you're getting started with fitness, what to look for? You're new to this. I love personal trainers. I have had the privilege of working with, of hiring, of training under, just being in the space of some incredible trainers, ones that have really inspired me to up my game, who have taught me so much about this craft and the way to show up for their clients, about different programming. I've just gotten to work with a lot of different types of trainers. I feel very lucky with the spaces that I've developed in. And I've been around personal trainers, both in a hiring, training, and working with capacity for a while. And while I've been really lucky in a lot of the people I've worked with, I also have seen that there is a vast, significant amount of variation in skill level. And honestly, as we'll talk about in a moment, a vast amount of variation in give a shiz level, which to me is equally important. And I would argue probably to anyone paying that it is as well. So first things first, when you are interviewing your personal trainer, like I mentioned before, if you're interested in Fit After 40 and you want a little bit of info before pulling the trigger on buying a membership, I totally understand. That's why I offer a complimentary consult call, because I want you to get a feel if I'm a good fit, and I want to get a feel if you're a good fit. And I'll always be really honest with people. But the first thing, my point there was that a lot of personal trainers do and should offer some sort of complimentary consult, or maybe like a slightly less expensive trial session where you get a vibe check for each other and you get to talk. The first thing that I would recommend asking is, where did you get your personal training certification? I've been told that I can be a little hard on this one, but it's for a reason. And when I say that I'm hard on this one, when I was hiring personal trainers, I look very specifically for 3 different types of certifications, but stay with me on why that is. The ones that I always look for when I am hiring, when I'm searching through resumes, the first thing, if I don't see any of these 3, then I pass it along. Those are NASM, ACE, so NASM, ACE, and ISSA. And there are a couple different reasons. For one, these have been around for a while, and they're continually developing programs and updating their materials. Especially, I'll say this again, but I'm certified through National Academy of Sports Medicine. The program that I got certified for as a personal trainer all those years ago looks different now. So they're constantly learning new things. They're updating their material. They're offering us the supplements that they add when they come out with new textbooks. So they're constantly updating information, which is so important because we're constantly learning more and more about this field. They've been around for a while, and they do the due diligence of making sure that they're keeping their trainers up to date. They also have more extensive requirements for certification, including general anatomical knowledge, which is deeply important. I actually was so stressed the first time I tried to take a NASM course because I am an overachiever and I'm working on it. I'm an overachiever in recovery. But I was so stressed when I was going through the first, I think it's chapter 3 in the NASM book, and I was like looking at the anatomy. I was like, what? I just want to help people squat and do burpees and things. That I took a college or a community college course on anatomy. And I'm glad I did because I learned a lot in that class, and it was a blast, and I just love learning. But the point is that they do require more of their trainers. You want a trainer who has an understanding of how your body works and has an understanding how everything in your body is connected. Like I said, National Academy of Sports Medicine, NASM is my cert. They actually require us to take a proctored exam. So that's right. I relived the PTSD of ACT exams just so I could be here with you today. Y'all, I don't love taking tests, but it was worth it. And obviously, here we are today. So it was very worth it. The point is, though, is that they take it seriously. These 3 certs, NASM, ACE, and ISSA, also require CEUs, or continuing education units, every 2 years, which means that in order for a trainer to keep their certification, they have to be continually learning and growing as a fitness expert. So that takes me to the next question. A great question to ask is, what CEUs have you taken? I didn't write about this, but one of the cool things about learning about people's CEUs is you can kind of get a better idea of things that they care about. So there's CEUs for everything. There are kettlebell flow CEUs. There are barbell expert CEUs. Clearly, I haven't taken barbell or kettlebell. There are menopause coaching specialist. There is TRX. So these are the ones that I've taken, right? I've done menopause coaching specialist, TRX level 1 completion. There's like 3 levels of master instructor, but I just wanted to be able to give a good TRX workout. Animal flow certification, mental toughness certification, yoga. I got certified as a yoga teacher. That counted as it was a 250-hour class. I feel like I'm missing something, but point is that you can kind of tell from mine that I've got a theme, right? I look at how to build a well-balanced frame. I'm really engaged in functional movement and how to age vitally. I look at the body as a full system. I like to learn different ways to make fitness more accessible. That's one of the things I love about TRX. I don't think I've done an episode on this yet, but I definitely have mentioned it before. TRX is one of my favorite pieces of equipment for at-home workouts because it's so versatile, even when it comes to building strength and muscle. So the things that I have put my time and effort into are things that are reflected in my work. And all of my CEUs also are things that I've taken anywhere from 6 to 12 months to get certified in. So that's another thing. If someone is just like rattling off CEUs and they were all like 1-hour seminars, for example, it's kind of a good indication that maybe they're just sort of throwing it away. But like I said, as someone who's completed many a CEU, I can say that each course has taught me something invaluable. Whether it's something that I've learned or that I've never learned before in other trainings, like all about pelvic floor health that I learned about in my menopause coaching specialist certification, which, by the way, the fact that that's my one, like, I'm hoping to see in all of these CERT programs that they have eventually in the future, they put in pelvic floor health, because right now I think it gets niched as like a woman's issue. But can I say it again? Women's health is not a niche. My friends, we are 51% of the population. So if my dreams come true, we will have a whole chapter on pelvic health in standard certification, because they're the base of our course. Men and women have them. They're just deeply important. Okay, anyway, that was one of the things that I learned that I find so deeply helpful. But there have been things that I learn a better way to coach, something that I've coached a million times. For example, when I was taking my TRX coaching certification, I learned the best way to coach a forearm plank that I've ever heard, and I still use it to this day. So you want a trainer who not only cares enough about their certification that they keep it active, because if you don't get your continuing education units, your certification relapses, but you want them to be excited about learning new things and about becoming a better trainer for their clients. This isn't to say that I'm against other certifications, but these are the three that I hold in highest regards. So if you are in that process of working with finding other trainers, feel free to send me over their recs and I can help you decipher, because there's a lot out there. I can help you figure out if they've actually put time in and are going to be someone who are really learning how to help you learn about your body, or if they've paid $99 to take a test online where they can Google all the answers, which is a real thing. And I am embarrassed to say that very early on in my career, I did that. And I know a lot of other people who have done similar things, because in order to apply for a personal training job, you have to have a certification. And while passion is important, if we don't have a certification, it's the blind leading the blind. And that brings me to the last point of this, which is I know a lot of people who work with quote unquote trainers who are not certified at all. I think we're becoming more savvy consumers, but this is really something that you need to be mindful of. Another place this really pops up a lot is when you're looking to work on nutrition. RD, registered dietitians, they actually go through thousands of hours of clinical training versus a nutritionist who can do like a 24-hour course and then call themselves a nutritionist. So you are welcome to ask the specialists you're working with questions so you understand how certified they are and if they actually have valuable information to share with you. Because remember, in this case, exercise is a science. Even if your trainer has been working out for a long time and they look great, if they haven't gotten certified, you're missing a wealth of important knowledge that not only keeps you safe, but helps you actually make and keep these lasting changes and teaches you how to do it for yourself. Like I said, this girl was so intimidated by it. I took a full-blown anatomy course out of college. So you learn a lot in these. So that's the first and like a half question. Where are you certified for your personal training certification? Or are you, I guess the first one is, are you certified? And then who are you certified through? And then what are your CEUs that you've taken? Next up, I like to offer up asking them what their experience is and what kind of clientele they've worked with in the past. I'm not saying that you need to like hold out for a trainer who's been in the game 20 years. There are, before I throw shade, a lot of trainers who have dedicated their life to this because they care deeply. They are making changes in people's lives. They are continuing to do continuing education. They're moving the field forward. Girls Gone Strong is a great example of that. That's where I got my menopause coaching certification. They're a group of trainers and practitioners who have been doing this for like twice as long as I have, and they're continuing to move the field forward. So there's a lot of passion in the space. It is hard to work. I couldn't imagine being in this space and not wanting to save the world. But anyway, issues of grandiosity. Point is, I've also seen a lot of trainers who have been in the game for a long time and they just phone sessions in. They use them as sessions to like catch up and chat with their clients, but they're not adjusting form. They're not really doing much progression in the workout. There's a lot of cookie cutter workouts given. So every single client that day is getting the same workout. It's just, I don't blame them. I know I'm throwing shade. This can be a really thankless career. People can be really burned out. You're doing dollar per hour sessions. A lot of these people have been working, like I said, if you're there for 20 years, it might be 20 years of getting up and coaching someone at 5 a.m. and your last client is until 8 p.m. That's a long work day, y'all. So again, no shade at who they are or why they got started, but it is important for you to know what to expect. And if that's something that you experience while the workout is happening, we'll talk about this again and again in the session, but you are always welcome to say, actually, this isn't a good fit for me. So if you like start working out with your trainer and they're just kind of like on their phone, or if they're just talking to you the whole time and they never really give you adjustments and you just kind of get the same workout, you notice maybe like Donna got the same workout and so did Mark, and everyone's just getting the same workout, or like the workouts you're getting don't really feel great in your body, you have permission to say, this isn't a good fit. But on the other side of things, it is good to know if your trainer has worked with people like you before, when we're thinking things like gender, age, past injuries, menopausal status, etc. Especially if we're getting started with exercise later in life, it is beneficial to work with someone who has experience working with more mature clientele. Because the truth is, there are certain inevitable things that happen in an aging body. We find a lot of times that we have limited range of motion, which is something that we can start to rebuild together. Muscle and bone loss become pretty significant, especially if we're just starting to work out. We might have gone, remember, peak bone is at 25. So if we're 50, that's 25 years of bone loss. You lose up to 8 to 15% of your bone and muscle just in the perimenopause transition alone. So we could be starting at quite a deficit, which is really important to be mindful about in terms of injury and safety. Again, the cool thing is that resistance training can help to rebuild and safeguard our bone and muscle, but we have to be mindful about it when we're choosing our exercises and when we're building foundations. There is less lubrication in our joints. We have stiffer tendons and ligaments. We recover slower the older we get. Sleep gets more disruptive, balance diminishes, power diminishes, and other such physiological changes that need to be considered in your programming. So again, it does behoove you to have a trainer who ideally has worked with a population you fit into before, or we all have to start somewhere. Someone who is mindful, is educating themselves how to be a best trainer they can be in this population, and are willing to stay very open-minded to feedback from you when you tell them things about your body. I had to start somewhere too. I definitely had my first perimenopausal client ever, and it was a big learning experience from me. Every client is a learning experience. Everybody's body is different. Everyone brings me things where I'm like, oh, you know what? Maybe that's generally I've seen everything before, but once in a while you get one where they really throw you a wrench and you're like, okay, here we go. Back to basics. I get to be the student again. All right. So my next favorite question. Okay. My next and favorite, I should say, I am playing favorites tonight, is what is your process for training? Method of training is a big deal to me. Like I said, there are a lot of trainers out there who are, to put it gently, subpar. It could just be lack of experience. It could be lack of knowledge around exercise programming. It could be that they just don't care. It could be a million different things. But a couple of things that we're looking for with this question. Ideally, we're hearing from them that they do an initial movement assessment to get a feel for how your body moves, its strengths and weaknesses, and most importantly, to help screen for muscle imbalances. We've talked about this a ton. Everybody, I don't care who you are, comes in with some sort of muscle imbalance. If they don't do some kind of assessment, they're not building a workout specific to your body. They couldn't be. They have no idea what's going on in your body. You have to assess to understand what's happening. So in that case, you're kind of just better off doing it on your own and saving money. And like I said, avoid cookie cutter workouts at all cost. If the trainer gives the same workout to every client, run, save your money, and do group fitness. Your body is different from 25-year-old marathoner Jennifer, who was dealing with her first case of plantar fasciitis, or 73-year-old Kathy, who has a double knee replacement and pain in her low back, or from 38-year-old Sarah, who just had her second baby 8 months ago. Everybody's body is different. So the approach to how we move and how we train that body should reflect that unique individual. Just as an example, I had 5 women in my Fit After 40 small group personal training today. Again, we're capping it at 5 for this reason. Day 1 of the program, I build in workouts that allow me to assess everyone's movement patterns and imbalances. And just as a spoiler, me and other trainers who are worth their salt, we're really assessing your movements every single session, right? That's what we're doing when we're adjusting your form. We're watching your movement patterns. But when I'm assessing, I'm also looking for, like I said, those muscle imbalances. So we're doing glute bridges this Thursday. And what I learned today is that each one of these women is going to have a slightly different approach to the way that I set them up for their glute bridge. One member has tight hip flexors, overactive abductors, and an anterior pelvic tilt. So stands with her butt sticking out. She's pretty dang strong. It's really dope. But since we're in the endurance phase, because we're in that first month, we're doing stabilization endurance, we're going to leave the weight out of her glute bridge, at least for the first round or 2. And instead, we're going to put a med ball between her thighs so that she's squeezing the med ball as she goes up and down in her glute bridge, training activation of her adductors to overcompensate for her abductors. Another member, also quite strong, super dope, but she also has a pretty severe anterior pelvic tilt. It's one of the most common things that we see in bodies in general. And she has a tendency to have her shoulders sort of roll forward in all the movements she's performing. Her glute bridge will probably have weight by the end because she is very strong. However, our focus initially is going to be on keeping the shoulders down the back, really decompressing through those shoulder blades, keeping them away from the ears, and maintaining the scoop of her pelvis, activating through that low core and pelvic floor so that her hips aren't rolling backwards into that anterior pelvic tilt. Another member has been working with me for a while. She is super proficient at glute bridges now, and she's going to get some fun weight, and she's going to love it. You listen to this podcast, you know who you are. Surprise, surprise. Another member, I told you I'm going to tell you about all 5. She and I have been working out for a few months together, kind of on and off in the last month, but I'd say like 3 months. She was brand spanking new when we started, and she's in her late 60s. Her glute bridge form is looking beautiful now, and her core activation is happening by itself. So huzzah and celebrations all around. This is another way that I like to really track clients' progress, is how quickly, basically how they can get into their positions without my attention, having to move them. So she's able to set up this bridge and turn on her core without me cueing her to do so, which is so cool and exactly what we want to see. So in our last session, before we moved into small group personal training, she used weight for the first time. So she too will get weight, but not quite as much weight as the aforementioned client. Again, you're welcome. And then my final and 5th member, a total badass, might I add. She's in her 80s and is brand spanking new to fitness. Be still my beating heart. You know this brings music to my life. She and I will be focusing on nailing form, specifically adjusting the position of her toesies, keeping her head on the ground, maintaining activation in her core, and squeezing the heck out of her glutes. No weight for this one, just training that sweet, sweet neuromuscular control. That's a lot. Assessments give us as trainers roadmaps to how your unique training should be approached. So all of these women are going to be essentially doing the same workout, but they're going to be tailored a little bit to each one based on what they need. And I chose the glute bridge because this is the one where there's the most diversity. There's also going to be some mix-ups. We have some rows coming up. For the most part, 3 of the women will be able to do TRX rows, and then 2 of them are going to be working on standing band rows because we really want to build that core strength. But this was just one of the extreme examples of where everybody's body needed something a little bit different in a very fundamental movement. That being said, don't write a trainer off if they don't offer up that they do assessments. They may feel like saying, I do assessments might not hold value to potential clients, but if they don't mention it, definitely ask, do you do movement assessments? We also hope during this time when we're asking about the process is adding some mention of progressing your workouts over time. Again, trainers might not just like casually throw this in because they think you don't care, but ask them, how do you progress workouts for your clients? Ideally, they give you some semblance of an answer that reflects that they do it on a client-to-client basis, that they do it based on the movement assessment they run, that they start by addressing what they learned in the movement assessment, aka correcting muscle imbalances. And ideally, this is where they start to mention that they really pay attention initially to focus on building solid foundations and form. This is another thing that I love about my personal certification, National Academy of Sports Medicine. I'm sure the other 2 do it, but I just lived this one. They have something called the OPT model, where they teach us to progress programming in 5 phases that complements the truth that exercise is a skill. So they do stabilization endurance, then they take it to muscular endurance, then they do hypertrophy, then they do max strength, then they do power. They don't skip around. They make sure each foundation, it's like a staircase. Each staircase is built on top of the next. I use this with all of my clients, no matter what their fitness background is, no matter what their goal is. I use this framework. What the actual workouts within that framework look like vary from client to client. And this is what you'll see too in Fit After 40 small group personal training. We're not just going to have them slide in and throw them under a barbell and say, hoorah, there you go, right? They're going to start with stabilization endurance. So month 1, we do stabilization endurance, focusing on the 3 S's that we talked about a few weeks ago: strong core, stabilization and balance, solid foundations. Month 2 is all about muscular endurance. We start to increase weights a bit and implement supersets where we challenge one muscle or a set of muscles, such as a weighted goblet squat. So we're targeting the prime movers, and then we immediately take it into a balance exercise. So like a step-up balance where you fatigued those prime movers, those quads, those glutes, and now you're taking it into a single leg step-up now that the legs are nice and shaky, eggs and bakey. So you're encouraging that muscular endurance. It is my favorite phase. I just can't wait. Month 3, we go into hypertrophy, aka, we've talked about this before, the singular stage that actually affects the width of the muscle fiber. Remember, most exercise is in the land of that neuromuscular control. Hypertrophy actually changes the size of our muscle. So now we're building muscle. We're looking at heavier but safe weights, medium rep ranges, working within that 1 to 2 rep from failure. But we don't start there. I need to teach their bodies how to move proficiently before I throw weight at them and go, okay, get after it. For clients who decide to stick around month 4 to forever, we get to start undulating that program. The main focus is going to stay on strength and hypertrophy because these are the things we need as we age vitally. But our program is going to continue to work in things from that first and second phase, and we'll start to add in a little bit of power as well. Basically, we make sure that we can always still balance, that we're mobile, and that we're sticking and checking in on the basics. So again, do not be afraid to ask how they progress their workouts. A good trainer will know the answer. Another great question in this vein is, how do they track client progress? Because remember, if you aren't tracking, you're guessing. I help women to get stronger, to build muscle, and to bulletproof their body and brain for longevity, for the life they want to live. So my sense of tracking is that I will track their reps and weights from workout to ensure that we're continuing to progressive overload over time. I also like to use mobility markers, like being able to touch your toes, drop your knees to the floor with your glutes on the ground when you do 90-90 hip drop, getting off the floor without using your hands. These are really important things too, because again, mobility is a sign of a functional body. So that is a really big marker to me as well, especially when clients start at a more mature age. If a client is more curious about a body comp goal, or if it's something they just want to track on their own, I personally love to use monthly photos. So you take the photo of your front of your body and you take the photo of the side of your body. And if you'd like the back of your body, and every month you just take photos. That way you can see over time where you're starting to see inches come down, where you're starting to see muscle definition develop. I also like to use measurements. So measuring things like waist, biceps. So again, you can actually see numbers that matter. I did a whole episode on how to track without ever using a scale if you want to deep dive a bit into that. But again, every trainer is different, and it might be a good thing to know, because if a trainer is like, I just use the scale, that might not be in line with what you want or where you are at. So that's a good thing to know. Final question for tonight, and there's a whole bunch of others. If you think of other ones that you like to ask people, feel free to share them so that I can share with the group. But ask about their training philosophy. This is not as woo-woo as it sounds. It will dictate everything from the program they design you to how they train you, think the words they use, if they listen to you, etc., to what is most important to them. So if you're looking, let's say, to find a program where fitness is treated as a way to bulletproof your brain and body and increase your health span, you probably aren't looking for a no pain, no gain, no days off calorie slash type coach. There are also, for example, some coaches who are hell-bent on weight loss as the number one goal, no matter the client, even if it isn't appropriate or it isn't the client's goal. Not a lot like in the real world, but if you've been on Instagram and you're like looking for programs, you've probably seen them too. Just, again, knowing a philosophy heading in really sets you up to avoid uncomfortable moments down the line and to have someone who's really got your back. Some extra things just to keep in the back of your mind once you start working with a trainer, things to sort of keep an eye out for, red flags, if you will. Also, if you haven't seen the SNL Red Flag sketch with Kristen Stewart, I want you to shut this podcast off, pause it, keep it up. Go to YouTube and look up Kristen Stewart, SNL Red Flag. You're gonna pee your pants. So make sure you're near a bathroom and then start the podcast, come back, leave me a message, tell me how you liked it. Okay, red flags for when you're working with a trainer. First red flag is that they write you a meal plan. Unless they are a registered dietitian, also, this is out of their scope of practice. Even if you're like, they look really great though, it is out of their scope of practice. It is a no-no. They cannot write you meal plans. They can offer suggestions and point you in the direction of foods that they think are healthier. But again, we get very little nutritional training just in a standard like personal training certification. And honestly, nutrition programs, I haven't seen a lot that I love. I'm keeping an eye out, but there's a lot of old practices in them. So like I said, it's out of scope of practice. Maybe they have a cert, be mindful, do a little research. But if they just offer you up a meal plan, shake your head, no thank you. If they diagnose or prescribe you, red flag. So if they diagnose why something is hurting, or if they prescribe you a recovery regimen, or worse, if they prescribe you supplements, red flag. Because again, super duper out of scope of practice. Personal trainers can help with a lot of things, but we are not doctors and we are not physical therapists, and we are not certified, unless we're also a physical therapist or a doctor, to tell you what's going on in your body or how to fix it outside of like muscle imbalance corrections, right? So we can help personal trainers. That's one of the cool things, is that personal trainers meet with you once, give you some exercises, or physical therapists see you once, they give you a couple of exercises, say do this 3 to 5 times a day, every day, Godspeed. And then you're like, great. Now what? Personal trainers, we get to help, right? Because you see us a lot more often and we help with accountability. That's one of the best parts about having a personal trainer, is helping you stay accountable. So we can really help keep you on track. Maybe even your personal trainer can add in your PT stuff as a warm-up, or using the knowledge of what your PT shared with you, they can make sure that they're programming a workout that is helping you to, again, correct muscle imbalances and avoid future injury. But they cannot prescribe. And that's one that is pretty hard, but really stuck out with me early on, was literally in NASM. We have a whole list of what's outside of our scope of practice. And if someone comes up and says like, my knee hurts in the squat, what do you think it is? I immediately have to say, it's kind of like taking the, what is that called? The HIPAA oath? Anyway, I basically literally signed an oath that said that I would say, I'm not a personal trainer, or I'm not a physical therapist. That's outside of my scope of practice. See your physical therapist. Here are some suggestions, but again, outside my scope of practice. And that is one thing that I get a lot, is people coming and asking me things about injuries, about things that they've experienced in the past. And I can run them through a movement assessment. And a lot of times it's just as simple as like adjusting feet. But if it's something chronic, it's not my wheelhouse. And I always, always, always start it with, if this is something that continues, see a physical therapist. Another red flag is if they work out with you. If your trainer that you are paying to take you through workouts works out with you. That's a big nope. N-O-P, nah. E. It's your workout. It's not theirs. And trust me, as someone who has done this for a long time, even the best of us cannot correct form and be a decent trainer if they're also working out, even if you're trading sets. So like if I'm doing a lat pull down and then I have someone else hop on and do a lat pull down, you're just too stinking tired and you're in your own world. So that's a big no. Plus you're paying for it. If they want to work out with you, be workout buddies. Next red flag, you're doing totally different exercises every single workout. Remember, in order to get an exercise down as a skill and then to eventually progressive overload it so that you keep building muscle and strength, you have to revisit the same exercise. How are you going to be better at a squat if you do a squat 1 week and then don't do a squat again for 7 weeks? And it's not just do a squat, but especially starting out, and really in all training, do the same squat. So the strength training programming that I was doing for a while, every single day would start with a repetition of the same metric movement. So I would do something like a front squat every single week. And every single week I would try to progress my front squat and I'd get a little bit better at my front squat, or a hip thrust, or a deadlift. So we need to see the same style of exercise so we can progress that. 6 weeks after I did that front squat for a while, it shifted to a back squat. My hip thrust stayed the same because I love it. But the point is that we need to stay on the exercise in order to actually learn it and to progress it. So if it's just kind of like all over the place, like 1 week you're doing squats into side lunges, and then you're doing burpees into chest press, and then the next week you're doing a sumo squat to a lateral step up to burpee hop over to chest fly. Muscle confusion is pretty well agreed on now that it is not the way to build muscle. You can work different things in to the workout, but those key movements need to be the same. That's getting in the weeds. Okay, next red flag. Red flag. If your trainer doesn't listen to you, red freaking flag. You got a problem. Houston, we have a problem. If you're tired, if you're injured, if you don't feel safe doing something, if you just flat out hate something so much it makes you want to quit exercise, you get to decide. I say it all the time. If someone rolls in feeling real sleepy, they didn't sleep for 2 days, they didn't sleep for 1 day, shoot. Things are going to look different. If someone wakes up with a crick in their neck, things are going to look different. I had someone today who was brand new to exercise. They came in. We were doing a move that was safe. She was worried about doing it because she had just recently injured her low back. You know what? We switched it up. Was she safe? Yes. But on her very first day, part of what we're doing, as much as we're building form, is we're rebuilding confidence. So they need to be listening to you. They are training you. Next red flag. We talked about this. They don't adjust your form. My question to you, why are you paying them? You can do workouts incorrectly on your own. Next red flag. If they promise rapid any kind of results, especially weight loss. Remember, rapid weight loss, while achievable, if it's lost rapidly, also means hella loss of your muscle, which is a serious detriment to healthy overall aging. But also remember, the less muscle we have on our frame, the slower our metabolism. And when we lose weight fast, up 25 to 30% of the weight we're losing is muscle mass. And I say it all the time, it is hard to build muscle. It is easy to lose it. So any quick fix results in general, we've talked about this too. I think probably listeners to this podcast, but I need reminders, right? Unfortunately, at this point, no quick fixes out there. So any quick fix promise, baby. Okay, the last red flag that I have written down here, red flag, is if you are new to training and they try to convince you that you need to be working out more than 3 days a week or doing something that feels unsafe. There's actually a lot of things. If anyone feels like they're trying to convince you to do something, but especially, I'm going to stay in this lane. If they try to convince you need more than 3 days a week, early on, you don't need more than 3 days a week. Remember, the benefits of weightlifting stay in your body for up to 48 hours afterwards. And especially when you're getting started, you see benefits with as little as 2 1-hour sessions a week. The other benefit of starting small, besides the fact that it doesn't feel like a crazy burden that makes doing it for a lifetime feel impossible, it also gives you ample recovery time. Because remember what I said before, as our bodies age, it does become harder for us to recover. And last, just off the noggin reason not to do this, we want to be able to progressive overload, right? One way to progressive overload down the line is by adding a third workout in. So if we're starting with a third workout, you got to add a fourth. So if anyone tells you you need more than 3 days, and if anyone tells you you need to work out every single day, That's a huge red flag. I just run fast, but don't run because like a lot of people run with bad form. Just power walk away. Squeeze those glutes, swing those arms, and keep your eyes straight ahead, shoulders on top of those ears. Speed walk away, sister. So there we go. Last little thing I'm going to touch on before I wrap this puppy up. Remember, you are hiring them. You're hiring them to help you. If you don't feel like a trainer is a good fit, you don't have to work with them. And I know it's so awkward it can feel awkward. And I think a lot of us feel conditioned to like not hurt anyone's feelings. You don't have to caretake here. It's a business. It's a business. There are going to be other clients who love the way they train. They're going to be just fine. If they are not a good fit for you, they're not a good fit for you. Stop paying them. It's similar to therapists, right? There are tons of therapists out there. And sometimes it just takes shopping around to find the right one for you. It generally takes me a few tries when I get to a new place to find a therapist that really feels like she lands in my groove. And then it's worth it, right? It's worth it. It takes a little bit of time, and especially, like I said, the nice thing with trainers is there's a lot of these questions. All of these questions you can ask before you've even committed to paying them. Because again, Fit After 40 small group personal training, I offer a free 30-minute consult where we get to sit down and talk through all of this. I offer a lot of this willingly because again, these are things that I think are very important. I let them ask me questions and we get a vibe for if we're a good fit. If they're a good fit for me, if I think they're a good, or excuse me, if I'm a good fit for them, and if I feel like they're a good fit for the program. So in theory, hopefully this episode is giving you a toolkit to not have to pay for training and then get 4 sessions in and go, oh, I made a big mistake. So, okay. Apparently I had a lot to say on this one because again, it is a big deal and it is an investment and I do not want you wasting your time or your money or again, ever leaving a session feeling like fitness isn't for you because it is. Exercise is for all of us. That's just the day and age we live in. Plus, selfishly, bad trainers ruin it for the rest of us. I'm joking, mostly. The real point is that I just want you to have a good set of questions so that, again, you go in well-informed on what you're looking for. As always, it is your body, your rules. So let's do a quick rundown of the questions. Are you certified as a personal trainer? Through what organization are you certified? What continuing education units have you taken? What is your experience / who have you worked with in the past? What kind of clientele have you worked with in the past? What is your process for training? Do you do movement assessments? How do you progress workouts? How do you track progress with clients? And what is your training philosophy? Play it back, write it down, keep it under your pillow at night so you remember, because as always, you and your body are so stinking worth it. Like I said, Fit After 40 did start this week, but we are now into evergreen enrollment. The cool thing about small group personal training is even if you join in December and the women who started today are into their muscle endurance, it is designed towards you. We'll start you with that stabilization endurance phase. So everyone gets catered to uniquely. But again, I say it all the time. I stole it from Dr. Stephanie Asima. I love you, girl. The best time to get started, getting muscle on our frame, working out, exercising, taking care of our health was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Do not sit. Do not wait any longer to take advantage of your health. And it's a low-hanging fruit. Least thing you can do is just sign up for that free consult. Let's chat. Like I said, even if it doesn't feel like I'm a good fit for you, I'll give you some action steps to walk away with, and you'll get some practice asking questions. Woohoo! I love to be practice. All right, team. If you got something out of this episode, or if you know a friend who's currently in the market for a trainer, please, please, please share with them. As always, this is a grassroots podcast, so your sharing of it, your posting on social media of it, you're leaving a 5-star review. If you have anything less than 5-star, feel free to reach out to me or find another podcast. There's lots out there. I'd be happy to find you another. Leaving a written review. All of these things are incredibly helpful for getting the podcast to other women so that we can continue to do this health revolution together. All right, squad. Time to roll out for me because I recorded this one late at night and she is hungry. I adore you. I'm so happy to be back in Minnesota recording this with you. And again, any questions about Fit After 40, reach out. In the meantime, cannot wait to sit down with you next week. Take care of your beautiful body and brain. You're so stinking worth it. Roo!